Finra responded to Roza's lawsuit, suing them to get 2 more days of trading for MMTLP slash NextBridge. And it's bad. It's not a very good lawsuit at all, or not a very good response at all. We'll kind of scroll through and do the little nitty gritty on that. But they're basically throwing this Hail Mary that's like, hey, we've got immunity for monetary damages, so throw this out. But Roza's not asking for monetary damages. She's asking for basically the court to say, what you did was not in the scope of your regulatory purview, and you put your thumb on the scale and you messed things up by doing that. And that is totally within the scope of suing. What she's asking for is not monetary. She just wants them to go back and allow those last 2 days of trading to happen, so the short shares can be closed. That's it. That's all it is. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right. So we'll scroll through this guy, and then I'll look at your little questions and see what you guys want to chat about specifically. But this is the deal. Okay, right off the bat, they're opposing. They're saying, no, we oppose this motion. Temporary restraining order. Let's find out why. So they give an introduction. They talk about how Finra is a private, not-for-profit self-regulatory organization, an SRO. They conduct the day-to-day regulation of the securities markets pursuant with the authority that was delegated to it by Congress, with oversight from the Securities and Exchange Commission. Kind of like, this is us. We never do wrong because we are the regulator. We always do good. So we can't possibly be bad because we regulate, right? FINRA does not issue, cancel, settle, or clear securities that are traded in the national securities markets. Instead, FINRA regulates its members that trade and quote securities in the national securities market. So they can't issue. Okay, they're not issuers. The issuer in this case was Metamaterial. They don't settle. Okay, and they don't cancel unless they sort of canceled. And they don't clear. They're not the clearing house. They don't clear the trades. They just kind of their job is to like watch the tennis match and the ball go back and forth, and then raise a flag when it's out of bounds or whatever. So they're basically stating that we're not the athletes in the game. We're the referee who watches the game happen, and we just sort of, pull out the red card when we need to. Okay. They deal with NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, OTC, which is what the cat wants to step on the keyboard again, which is what MMTLP was trading on, and then ensure they comply within the rules of the game, right? And all these regulations that are therein. So the case relates to OTC, so these over-the-counter stock, which is what MMTLP was. And it was subject to company-related action by Metamaterials, which was, hey, we got this oil company we don't want, and we want to spin it off and make it its own company. And from there, it's going to be a private corporation, just a private company not traded on the market. So they spent off this portion of its business in a new company. In terms of the related action provided, the one, individuals that held the Series A preferred non-voting shares of MMTLP would receive an equal number of shares in a new company. Meaning if you've got one MMTLP, you're going to get one NextBridge as a result. And then MMTLP would cancel, except not cancel, deleted, not canceled. That's the wrong term. See this term right here? Not right. It would not immediately cancel. It would immediately delete. Important. Because if a stock ticker is deleted, then there's still a stock that remains that was once represented by that. If a stock is canceled, then you don't have to close your position. So pay attention to the times they use cancel in here when they meant to say deleted. All right? So, I'm sure Rose is picking up on this too when she gets a chance to read it this weekend. So what they mean to say is Meta would immediately delete the MMTLP ticker after the spin out, those shares. Not cancel. Not cancel. Okay. Pursuant to the SEC and FINRA rules, companies have issued OTC equity securities, like Meta's MMTLP shares, may request that FINRA process documentation related to company-related actions, the corporate action, to facilitate the orderly trading and settlement of OTC equity securities. So that's why for weeks they're like, corporate action, FINRA, pay attention. And they're begging FINRA to issue the corporate action to give guidance to the brokers as to how to proceed. Basically, a coach threw a flag out in the field and they're asking the referee to review the tape and tell everyone how it's going to go from here, right? And for weeks, FINRA wasn't doing spit. They were not paying attention. They were not issuing corporate action. They were not giving directive guidance to the brokers as to how they were supposed to do this. But FINRA is pretending like, well, you know, we look at this, we look at the corporate action, and we chimed in, right? So FINRA reviews these requests and notifies OTC Marketplace of the company-related actions unless FINRA determines the request is deficient by announcing the company-related actions in the FINRA Daily List publication. Here, FINRA announced Meta's company-related action in the FINRA Daily List publication on December 6th, 2022, right? It wasn't December 7th. Wasn't it the 7th, the corporate action? Might have been the 7th. I think it was, but whatever. Monkey, what do you want? What do you want, Monkey? As modified on December 8th, the announcement included information about spend. Well, the problem was that the first one said canceled, not deleted. So they had to amend it and put the deleted in there because canceled and deleted are two different things in regards to this, which we can see the lawyer here also seems to have issue distinguishing between the two. The announcement included information about the spinoff of NextBridge shares and the deletion. See, now they're using deletion. See? Now they're using the deletion and not cancellation. They're two different things in this legalese. We're talking deletion, not cancellation. The MMTLP symbol, which with an effective date of December 13th, 2022, as announced, FINRA deleted the MMTLP symbol on December 13th. NextBridge announced that on December 14th, the spinoff from Meta was completed and the MMTLP shares were canceled. No, deleted. Deleted. FINRA was not party to Meta's company-related action, and FINRA had no role in the distribution of NextBridge shares or canceling the MMTLP shares. Deleted. That's not what this is about, FINRA. This is they're like, we have nothing to do with the corporate action. We know that, dipshit. That's not the point. The point is what you did prior to that, ding dong. Okay. As part of FINRA's regulatory oversight responsibilities for the OTC market, FINRA is also expressly authorized to direct its members to halt trading and quotation activity on OTC equity services when FINRA determines that doing so is necessary to protect investors and the public interest. So they're now trying to assert that what they did was for our benefit, right? Cat, if you step on that keyboard, I'm going to jettison you and spike you like a football. That's right. Go around. Now you're in the way of the screen I'm trying to read. Move your butt. Okay. FINRA exercised this authority in connection with the trading of MMTLP shares in the days leading up to the spinoff to address the potential significant uncertainty in the settlement and clearance processes for MMTLP. Shares that were the subject of Meta's company-related action on December 9th, 2022, FINRA notified its members to halt trading and quoting of MMTLP shares and informed them that the halt would end when the symbol was deleted. Notice deleted, not canceled, deleted on December 13th, 2022. Okay. Their argument, this is where they start their argument, that they're afraid they won't be able to clear the shares in time for the distribution that happens. Because, it's going to get distributed on the 14th and then immediately it will go into everyone's accounts. So if there's any shares that haven't cleared, then they're obviously not going to get anything, and everything's going to be screwed. That's their argument. All right. In response to the trading halt, plaintiff initiated this action against FINRA. The complaint filed December 14th alleges violations of the Sherman Act and Securities Exchange Act and incorporates a motion for preliminary injunction. Then December 16th, 2 days after the spinoff transaction was finalized, plaintiff filed instant motion with the court. Plaintiff's motion seeks a temporary restraining order to enjoin the replacement, removal, deletion, or disposal of MMTLP shares until all accounting of, excuse me, I seriously just ate like 5 sandwiches before I came on. I was so hungry. Until like all an accounting of all actual short sale, borrowed, loaned, or any and all forms of Series A preferred dividend (MMTLP) have been verified, and the liquidity of stock has been restored. Notice I put the sick in here because it's got a has. So, oops. Sometimes you do screw up on the language there. Okay, so what they're doing right now is they're trying to show the judge that there was no emergency because she filed this stuff like the day that the shares were distributed from metamaterial, and then 2 days later she filed this other instant motion with the court. Like, they're trying to show that she's like taking her sweet old time, therefore there's no emergency, fully unaware that she's filing these things because the judge told her to file these things, right? Legally speaking, all she had to do was file for the injunction, for the emergency injunction, and that's it. But the judge's like, you know what? You probably should file a complaint as well. So she did. She's like, all right, I'll file a complaint. And he's like, you know what? You should probably file a TRO on top of that complaint. That way you can get a ex parte hearing, meaning they don't have to be present. She's like, cool, I'll do that. And then he's like, you know what? You should probably also serve them with everything and get that affidavit of service done. So they're trying to paint Roza as this isn't an emergency because she did these things over a matter of days, not realizing at all that every step of the way was something the judge asked her to do. So they're already starting off on the bad foot with the judge here, basically saying like, well, she did these things and it took some time. And the judge is going to read this and you go, yeah, but I told her to do those things on those days and she lickety-split did it. Okay. Plaintiff, however, does not and cannot demonstrate any preliminary injunctive relief, including the requested restraining order, is appropriate. Basically, they're saying, like, you can't make us not halt this thing because you can't prove that you were injured, right? First, notwithstanding her conclusionary assertion to the contrary, plaintiff does not have a likelihood of success on the merits because, among other reasons, immunity bars plaintiff's claims. Second, plaintiff did not allege any actual or imminent harm which is necessary in order to obtain injunctive relief. Third, plaintiff failed to establish that any purported injury would be remedied by the requested relief. Finally, plaintiff failed to establish that the issuance of a temporary restraining order would serve the public interest. Accordingly, plaintiff's request for temporary restraining order should be denied. Okay, let's look at this bing bang bongo sentence or paragraph that they set up here. So they're saying that the plaintiff doesn't have a likelihood of success because Finra has immunity. Okay, the lawyer is taking immunity that doesn't relate to this and trying to wrap it around the injunctive relief she's asking for. Finra has immunity to monetary damages. They cannot be sued for monetary damages. They can be sued for other things and have been successfully sued for other things many, many, many times. In each one of those lawsuits that they've been sued for, when there has been monetary damages involved, they argue that they can't be sued. This is their boilerplate right off the back. They go, you can't sue us. We're an SRO with authority from Congress. We're just doing our job, and you can't sue us for monetary damages for doing our job. Which, if people were suing for monetary damages, that would work. But in this case, no monetary damages are being sued for. Therefore, that's what I have to say. Okay. Second, plaintiff did not allege any actual imminent harm. Yes, she did. She stated that there are copious amount of short shares available, and because those short shares are inside of the accounting of these brokerages, and because FINRA halted trading, those short shares did not get closed. Those short positions did not get closed. Therefore, anyone who's entitled to the 1-for-1, like you get one next bridge for one MMTLP, if there are 5 MMTLP for every one next bridge, then how are you going to assign that? You have now officially harmed every single solitary investor. Because you can't split this thing up 5 ways. It needs to be 1-for-1. Boom, harm. They're ignoring that. Okay. Third, plaintiff failed to establish that any purported injury would be remedied by the requested relief. 2 more days of trading to force close positions, any short positions left on this privately traded stock would remedy everything. You get 2 more days of trading that forces shorts to close their position, and ta-da! Now you can do the 1-for-1. You can delete those 4 other ones that are out here being a pain in the ass, and those all go away, shwink, and you're down to 1. Boom. Relief has happened. Wrong again. Okay. And finally, plaintiff failed to establish that the issuance of temporary restraining order would serve the public interest. If the public is who invests in stocks, and Finra has essentially anointed any stock as the ability to short it like crazy and never have to close your position, then the public has no business ever investing in the market ever again. If you can't win because the deck is stacked against you, then you're going to lose, right? So, Roza's lawsuit forcing them to close short positions, which are legally supposed to close, and Finra made it so they didn't have to close, is definitely in the public interest. So, they're wrong. Okay. Factual background. Finra's role in regulating securities industry. Finra is a private, not-for-profit Delaware corporation, an SRO, registered with the SEC as a National Securities Association pursuant blah, 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 blah. Okay. And blah, 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 blah. So they're just citing all the laws that give them regulatory powers. Among its regulatory obligations, the Exchange Act requires Finra to establish rules designed to prevent fraudulent, manipulative acts and practices, to promote just and equitable principles to trade, to foster cooperation and coordination with persons engaged in regulating, clearing, settling, processing information with respect to and facilitating transactions and securities, and in general to protect investors and public interest. Okay. Let's look at their little mission statement right here, right? This is from the Exchange Act, which establishes FINRA's ability as a state regulatory, a self-regulatory organization. Okay, they're designed to prevent fraudulent and manipulative acts and practices. So, if their decision to halt trading via this U3 halt, in fact, enabled fraudulent and manipulative acts and practices, then they failed in their duty assigned to them by Congress. Because if there are short shares still on the books on this private company, then fraud has happened. Right? So, boom, right there in their own little quote of their mission, they failed miserably. Okay. To promote just and equitable principles of trade. Okay. You want equitable? Every short share must close. Boom. Done. For every short you make, you must close. You must cover that position at some point. Right? Okay. And to foster cooperation and coordination with persons engaged in regulating, clearing, settling, processing information with respect to facilitating transactions. Okay. Their job is to look at this, go, hey, man, these are the rules. You must play by them. You shorted, you got to close. This private company's coming along. And in general, protect investors and public interest. I have not been protected. Those of you who hold MMTLP shares in this chat here at 11 o'clock at night Pacific time, you have not been protected. They fudged you pretty good. They effed you in the A. That's what they did. You lost your opportunity to get market price for your stock. And as a result, because there's so many short shares, you lost your opportunity to get your 1-for-1 exchange of the dividend of those NextBridge shares. Right? So, boom, in their own little mission statement, they failed miserably. With few exceptions not relevant here, SEC must approve all FINRA rules before they're implemented. Okay, so basically, like we make the rules, we present the SEC, and the SEC like ding grants you those rules. So they're saying like we made the rules, and SEC looked at them, and they're totally cool, but they didn't do anything according to their rules here. They're manipulating their rules to pretend like what they're doing. Okay. All right. Okay. Talking about quoting securities and blah, blah, blah. Rule 644.0 authorizes FINRA to direct its members to halt trading and quoting OTC equity securities to protect investors and the public interest. Under that rule, FINRA may halt trading on an OTC security if, among other reasons, FINRA determines that an extraordinary event has occurred or is ongoing that has caused or has the potential to cause major disruption to the marketplace or significant uncertainty in the settlement and clearing process. Okay. So there could have been a major disruption in the marketplace in that they were going to pay us hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars to close these shares. Yeah, that would kind of be a big disruption in the marketplace. But the argument that they make is not that. The argument they make here is that significant uncertainty in the settlement and clearance process. They're saying that anyone who bought shares between the 9th and the 12th might not be able to get their MMTLP. That's their argument. Okay? That's the entire argument why they issued that U3 halt. But if they had read the S1 and they had read their own corporate action, they would have noted that any shares purchased after the 8th, the clearing was the responsibility of the seller. Okay? So, why didn't they read their own corporate action? Why didn't they read the S1? The reason why the issuance was on the 14th and the trading was halting on the 12th was to give 2 more days of clearing so that short positions could be deleted. That's it. Close those positions, boom, yada bada. Okay. In addition to foster cooperation, coordination, clearing and settling of transactions in OTC securities, to protect investors and the public interest required by the Exchange Act, Rule 6490 specifies the requirements for using that FINRA process announcements of the Exchange Act Rule 10b-17, actions and other company-related actions for OTC equity securities. When FINRA processes documentation for a company-related action, it announces the action on the FINRA daily list, which they did. They announced that corporate action for us on, they say the 6th, but I think it was on the 7th. The announcement will include information about the company-related action, such as the amount of ratio of dividend or stock split, the new name of an issuer, or new symbol as applicable and appropriate. Okay. 2. Bing! The meta company-related action. According to NextBridge Prospectus, which is attached as Exhibit B to plaintiff's complaint, Meta intended to spin off a portion of its business into an independent public reporting company. No, it's a private company. It's a private company, not a public reporting company. Public reporting companies have to do their quarterly reports, things like that. This is just a private company. NextBridge, as part of the spin-off transaction, individuals who held MMTLP shares at the close of business December 12th would receive an equal number of shares of the common stock of NextBridge. In addition, shareholders were notified that immediately after the spin-off, all shares of Series A non-preferred stock shall be canceled. This is the one that got amended. It's deleted, not canceled. Deleted. All right? They're using the non-amended one because FINRA issued the wrong term first. So this is what they're citing here. The original one is deleted. On December 6, 2022, pursuant to FINRA Rule 6490, FINRA announced in its daily list publication that MMTLP shareholders with settled positions as of December 12, 2022 would receive 1 NextBridge for every 1 share of MMTLP held. The announcement explained that any new purchases of MMTLP shares after December 8th would not receive the NextBridge distribution. Incorrect. That is incorrect. Any shares purchased after December 8th would have to be cleared by the seller, ensuring that, if they receive the NextBridge share, they would get it to whoever the buyer was. That's what it is. It happens in stocks all the time. When Ape had its date of record and you sold shares between the date of the record and the issuance, you were responsible for providing those shares to the person who bought your shares. Same thing with the split from GameStop. The date of record from GameStop and the date of when the dividend split happened. Anyway, if you sold in between there, you were responsible for providing the dividend shares to the person who bought in the in-between period. So this lawyer's muddying the waters. He knows full well what happens in these instances. Okay. On December 13th, Finra deleted the MMTLP symbol, so they're using the deleted term again. Next Bridge announced the spinoff was finalized on the 14th, and they're saying, look at the press release that they released. So here they say they distribute everything. Okay, also, Finra's understanding that MMTLP shares were canceled, deleted. See Next Bridge investor frequently asked questions there. 3. The trading halt. As discussed above, FINRA Rule 6440 authorizes FINRA to direct its members to halt trading and quoting of OTC securities to protect investors and the public interest, including where FINRA determines that an extraordinary event has occurred or is ongoing that has caused or has a potential cause major disruption in the marketplace or significant uncertainty in the settlement and clearance processes. They mentioned this above. In light of the timing of Meta's company-related corporate action and the imminent deletion of MMTLP shares, FINRA exercised its authority under the rule and directed its members to halt trading and quoting on MMTLP shares because of the potential uncertainty in the settlement and clearance process for any transactions executed after December 8th. Bullshit. The S1 and the corporate actions issued both took that into account, which is why they both specifically said that anyone purchasing after the 8th had to ensure that the clearance for the new shares was on them and not on the clearinghouses. Okay? FINRA exercised its authority under the rule and directed its members to halt trading and quoting of MMTLP shares because of potential uncertainty of the settlement and clearance process and any transactions after December 8th. Okay, here we are. Yesterday was 1 month, 28 days since they filed that halt, right? 1 month since they filed that halt. Not a single one of you have your shares. We're a month later. This is supposed to be a 2-week process. We're a month later. They're like, hey, we got the shares. And you're like, cool. Can I transfer these? They're like, no, because we don't have your shares. Okay, so you got our shares. Yes, we got your shares. Cool, can I have them? You cannot. Why? Because I don't have them. Because what they're discovering is, because none of these short positions were closed, they received X number of shares from the DTC, like, oh, you got 5 million shares. But their book shows that there's like 10 million, 15 million, 20 million shares that should get one, and they don't know how to divvy that out. That seems to be a giant problem with the settlement and clearing process. That is the result of the U3 halt. So their reasoning for why they had to halt caused a problem that the halt was supposed to solve. If they just closed positions, deleted all those synthetics, then there would have been no problem whatsoever in the issuing of these shares. But because they weren't allowed to close this stuff, there's now a problem with clearing and settling. Okay, so FINRA, in Section 3, the trading halt of their complaint here, they're completely oblivious to the fact that they, in fact, caused the problem. Okay. Okay, pursuant to SEC rule, the industry standard settlement and clearance cycle takes 2 business days. Adoy. Why do you think trading stopped on the 12th, issuance is on the 14th? 2 business days. Okay. All right. Because of the standard 2-day settlement cycle under the federal securities law, transactions executed in MMTLP shares after Thursday, December 8th generally would not be able to settle by Monday, December 12th. Except they'd be settled by December 14th when the shares are issued. Da-doy. Okay. Investors who purchase of MMTLP shares did not sell by December 12th would not be record owners of MMTLP shares. Yes. Except investors wouldn't be purchasing shares after the 8th. it would have been close only, and it would have been short hedge funds closing positions and not getting shares to settle for to receive the new crap. No, that's not at all what it was, and they know it. I mean, we've got information from the broker saying, yeah, after that it's gonna be close only. That okay, they're now pretending like the total standard things that they're supposed to do weren't going to happen, therefore they had to halt, and that's a bunch of bullshit. All right. Owners of MMTLP shares and thus would not be identified as entitled to receive distribution of NextBridge shares as part of the spinoff. Okay. If the spinoff here took like more than a month, then I'm pretty sure they'd figure out who had the real thing and didn't if they had closed these positions. In addition, all MMTLP shares are immediately canceled and deleted by Meta after the spinoff. Finally, the NextBridge prospectus explained that the common stock of NextBridge is not and will not be publicly traded and will not be eligible for electronic transfer through the depository trust company, book entry system, or any other established clearing corporation. Yeah. Amazing how that works when a company goes private, right? So maybe you should have closed positions before that happened, right? Okay. In light of these facts, Finra determined that further trading of MMTLP after December 8th had the potential to cause significant uncertainty in the settlement and clearing process of shares of MMTLP. So notice that they're citing here specifically the settlement and clearing process. They are not citing the rule that talks about potential to cause major disruption in the marketplace, which closing positions to the tune of like hundreds of billions or possibly trillions of dollars would cause massive disruption. So their extraordinary event is not the event that would have happened. Their extraordinary event is the fact that settlement and clearing would be impossible and people wouldn't be able to get issued their shares, which is what happened because they didn't close positions. So they didn't do their job. They compounded the problem. And now they're ignoring the actual reason why they halted and citing a reason that is currently an actual problem as why they halted. Okay. December 9th, Finra directed its members to halt trading and quoting MMTLP shares and explain that the halt will end concurrent with the deletion of the symbol effective Tuesday. Notice this, they're using deletion again and not canceled. Okay. The symbol effective Tuesday, December 13th. All right. So, Finra, riddle me this. If you cancel, deleted, if you delete the shares, right? There's 165 million of them and you delete them. What happens to the 300 million plus synthetic shares that now are entitled also to a 1-for-1? What happens to those? You haven't addressed that. You've not addressed, so far you haven't addressed even once anything relating to short sales, which is in her original complaint. She wants to know how many short shares there are on this private company. And you have not addressed it even once. All right. You deleted the ticker. The stocks have been deleted from the FAST system. But there are still hundreds of millions of short shares. Monkey butt, what do you want? What do you want, you sweet little dog? You're just like Antsy and the Pansy or something. Okay. 4. Plaintiff's motion does not present an emergency. This is the part where they get real dickish about how she filed things when she filed exactly how the judge told her to. On December 16, 2022, 2 days after the Meta transaction was finalized, plaintiff filed the instant motion seeking a temporary restraining order requiring Finra to provide an accounting of all actual short sale, borrowed, loaned, or any and all other forms of Series A preferred dividend, MMTLP, and NextBridge hydrocarbon shares for verification. So she already wants them to either look at the MMTLP if those still existed, or the NextBridge as they're issued. They're ignoring that on the 14th, prior to the distribution of shares, she asked for this emergency injunction. So they're ignoring that part already. Like she already filed prior to the issuance of these shares. asking for an emergency injunction to go, stop everything, right? And then the judge told her to file the restraining order. Okay. And to enjoin any replacement, removal, deletion, or otherwise unilateral disposals of Series A preferred stock identified MMTOP, and reissue any hitherto, I can't ever say that word, deleted until an accounting has been verified and liquidity of the stock has been restored. Okay. And then they talk about on the December 22nd, 12 days after the initiation of this action, right? No, that's not how math works. December 22nd is 8 days after the action. So he's a lawyer. He's not a mathematician. So, let's just, yeah. 8 days after the spinoff was completed. No, she started this action 8 days after. It's all 8 days. Okay. And 6 days after plaintiff's motion was filed, plaintiff served plaintiff's motion upon Finra's registry agent in Tallahassee, Florida, while plaintiff seeks to leave to present oral argument due to emergency nature of the motion. Plaintiff's motion fails to explain the emergency, as required by Local Rule 7.1. No, the emergency is there are still hundreds of millions of short shares, and if there are hundreds of millions of short shares, you can't get your 1-for-1. You needed those last 2 days of trading to close the short positions so that there would be no short shares at all on this private company. That's it. That's the simple. It's so simple. Okay. Further, NextBridge has announced the spinoff transaction is complete. No. What they announced is they distributed. Not that it's complete. They did their part. They distributed to AST, who then distributed to DTC, who then distributed to the brokers. But it's not complete because I haven't gotten my shares yet a month later. Monkey butt, have you gotten your shares? You have not, have you? No, you've not gotten your shares. I've gotten shares. None of you have gotten your shares. Why? Because there's so many fake shares out there. We can't get them until those fake shares have gone away. Okay. 1. Standard review. To obtain temporary restraining order, a party must demonstrate that 1. There is a substantial likelihood of success in the merits, and 2. Irreparable injury will be suffered if the relief is not granted, and 3. The threatened injury outweighs the harm and relief it would inflict on the non-movement, and 4. Entry of the relief would serve the public interest. Okay. Well, let's look through these. Plaintiff has not asserted claims upon which there is a likelihood of success in the merits. Plaintiff's complaint alleges violations of the Exchange Act and Sherman Act. Neither claim can succeed on the merits. First, as a self-regulatory organization, Finra is absolutely immune from all claims related to its market regulatory activities. Therefore, both claims fail. No. It's not immune to all claims of market regulatory activities if the regulations were not followed correctly. If they were doing their job and protecting retail investors, yes. But if they did their job and they harmed retail investors, such as the hundreds of you that are in this chat right now, then they did not do their job and they misused their regulatory position. They can be sued for that. Okay. The Exchange Claim Act also fails because there is no private right of action against Finra for alleged violations of the Exchange Act or its own rules. Further, the Sherman Act claims preclude because application of antitrust laws conflict with the authority delegated to Finra in the Exchange Act to regulate the national securities market. Okay, if they were actually regulating the market and not protecting short hedge funds. If you're using your regulatory purview to protect retail investors, and in that act you actually harm retail investors while protecting your buddies at the hedge funds, then you are not protected by these rules that make you immune for claims for related to market regulatory activities. Finra has absolute immunity for its regulatory functions. Finra is absolutely immune from suit any claims regarding regulatory functions performed under the aegis of Exchange Act delegated authority. Blah 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 blah. Here, Finra's issuance of trading halt was regulatory function performed in accordance with Finra's rules and authority delegated in the Exchange Act. Except it wasn't, because your own rules say that you cannot have short shares in a private company. So if you claim you're protecting the retail investors by not allowing the closing of these positions, then you have in fact harmed the retail investors and you did not regulate under the purview of the powers granted to you by Congress. Therefore, you can be sued. All right. To determine whether absolute immunity applies to a self-regulatory organization, conduct courts look to the objective nature or function of activity which the self-regulatory organization seeks to claim immunity. Plaintiff admits FINRA has the authority to issue trading halts. Thus, there is no dispute that FINRA has the authority and discretion to halt trading in accordance with within FINRA rules. Okay, just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you can just do it willy-nilly whenever you want. And if you're going to cite the rule as to why you did it, but then what happens after you did it is the thing you were citing the rule for, right? Monkey butt, what do you want? What do you want? You already went outside. I know. Oh, I know she just wants some loving. Sorry, one sec. Gotta halt and just give some dog loving right here. I know, buddy. Yeah, I know. You just want to, I don't know, you want to poke the cat or something? Do that. All right, hop down. Okay. All right. So they're citing that settlement and clearing was going to be a problem, which is why they did this halt. But because they did this halt, settlement and clearing is a problem. All right. Had they allowed positions to close, settlement and clearing would not be a problem. Here's how it works. If there are 300 million synthetic counterfeit shares out there, these short shares that need to be deleted, right? Those last 2 days where it's close only, the 9th and the 12th of December are close only, meaning the brokers go, all right, we're going to start liquidating the shorts, using their money and force closing these positions because we have to be closed by 4 p.m. Eastern time on Monday the 12th. We have to get rid of all these stupid things. What they do is they send out a bunch of money and say, we're going to buy your shares. And they'll gobble up every single solitary share available. And if that share is a legit share, they take that legit share and they put it into the account of a long who currently has a synthetic. And if that share is a synthetic share, they take it and they just, gone. And they do that, replace, replace, replace. And they just do that until every single solitary short position is closed. Retail traders at this point have nothing to do with the market. Why? Because we are not buying the stock at $1,000 a share. We're not buying it at $2,000 a share. Also, if you just set it to close only in those positions, then people can decide like, you know what? Nah, I'm going to sit on this. You're not offering enough money. I'll take my legit shares. So they'll have to offer more money. And they'll have to offer more money and more money and more money to entice the investors to give up their shares. And if they give up their shares, they might be giving up some legit shares, might be giving up some synthetic shares. Either way, if it's synthetic, eat it. If it's legit, they take it and they put it into the accounts of those who haven't sold, who have synthetic shares in their account. That's how it's done. They know how that's done, and they're ignoring that part entirely. So this whole settlement clearing bullshit is just not at all, doesn't hold water. And I think Roza can argue that quite readily because so far they've ignored the existence of short positions. They have not mentioned it beyond what she stated in her complaint for injury. And they have not mentioned at all how it's their job to ensure these short positions were closed before the company went private. Okay. FINRA's exercise of authority, trading halt regulation, and FINRA is therefore immune from suit. No. Not if you used it improperly and not in accordance with your rules because the problems happened because you halted. The immunity afforded FINRA in performance regulatory functions is absolute. No, it's not. SRO is absolutely immune from suit for the improper performance of regulatory, adjudicationary, or prosecutorial duties delegated by SEC. Okay. So they're saying that if they fucked up, then we can't be sued either. This has to do with monetary damages, and they get to it a little bit further down. She's not seeking monetary damages. Okay. This form of absolute immunity is an integral part of the American system of securities regulation. The SEC depends on FINRA and other self-regulatory organizations to perform the day-to-day functions of examining qualifications, registering personnel, disciplining infractions, and regulating market activity. These functions would in other circumstances be performed by a government agency, yet government agencies, including the SEC, would be entitled to sovereign immunity for all suits for monetary damages. Sovereign immunity for all suits for monetary damages. She's not suing for monetary damages. She is suing, saying that your halt was unreasoned and those reasons you gave are bullshit. So you have to unhalt and have 2 more days of trading to close those positions. That's what she's asking for. She's not asking for monetary damages. So you can take this and crumple it up and throw it away. Okay. Accordingly, based on all the well-organized doctrine of absolute immunity, plaintiff has no likelihood of success in the merits of her claims. Okay, B. The Exchange Act does not provide a private right of action. Moreover, plaintiff's Exchange Act claim fails on other grounds. Plaintiff asserts that FINRA aided and abetted in violation of Section 10B of the Exchange Act, blah, blah, blah. However, neither the Exchange Act nor any other statute provides for a private cause of action against a self-regulatory agency like FINRA for acts or omissions connected with its duties as a securities regulator. Here, while plaintiff alleges that FINRA acted in contravention of the Next prospectus purportedly approved by the SEC. Purportedly approved. No, it was approved by the SEC. It was not purportedly. It was approved. Like, stamp approved. No purported. You guys should know that. Plaintiff admits that FINRA has authority to issue trading halts. Well, again, you have the authority to issue them if you're issuing them according to your own 6440 rule for issuing them. Thus, plaintiff's Exchange Act claim amounts to a complaint about how FINRA conducted its regulatory duties, and plaintiff cannot state a claim against FINRA for such alleged violations of FINRA's rules. Accordingly, plaintiff has no likelihood of success on the merits of her Exchange Act claim. I mean, if you issued it and you caused more problems than you would have if you didn't, then probably shouldn't have issued it. C. The Sherm Act claim is precluded by the Exchange Act. Supreme Court has found that the sections Supreme Court has found that securities laws preclude application of the antitrust laws where the two are completely incompatible. Credit Suisse one. To determine whether there is sufficient incompatibility to warrant implication of preclusion, courts look to the following factors: the existence of regulatory authority under securities law to supervise the activities in question. 2, the evidence of the responsibility of regulatory entities exercise that authority. 3, a resulting risk that the securities and antitrust laws, if both applicable, will produce conflicting guidance, requirements, duties, privileges, or standards of conduct. And 4, the possible conflict affected practice that lie squarely within an area of financial market activity that the securities law seeks to regulate. Okay, that's a lot of there. Here, plaintiff alleges that the trading halt unreasonably restrained trade. It did, because you restrained trade. Boom, you restrained trade, boom. And it was unreasonable because the reason you gave is the actual problem that it caused. Okay. Plaintiff also admits, however, FINRA is authorized in halt trading. Again, they're trying to throw that one in there. That, yes, plaintiff admits they're authorized. It's literally, yes, you have the authorization to halt trading if you have a legal reason for doing so. But the legal reason they gave is what caused problems now. Okay, further, FINRA's announcement of trading halt is a regulatory function that FINRA is authorized to perform in accordance with the Exchange Act. Unless you're not doing it to regulate and you're doing it to help your buddies. All right? All right. According to plaintiff, Sherman Act claims precluded by Exchange Act with authorized FINRA to regulate national securities markets. Thus, Sherman Act cannot succeed on merits. For these reasons, plaintiff cannot meet her burden of establishing a substantial likelihood of success in the merits. Okay, 3, plaintiff fails to allege any actual and imminent injury. This is bullshit. Right off the bat, she's already established the injury, which is everyone has fake shares on their account because they didn't close. All right, actual showing irreparable injury is the, I can't read, the Latin sine qua non of injunctive relief. Here, plaintiff does not allege any injury, much less actual and imminent harm. Yeah, really? I mean, if she's got a bunch of fakes in her account and can't actually get her 1-for-1 as promised because you shut down trading, then yes, she was injured. All of us were. Instead, she merely makes the conclusory allegation that there's a likelihood of irreparable harm. Well, we're a month in, right? And none of us have real shares in our account. Therefore, we've been harmed. 11th Circuit has found that the irreparable injury must neither be remote nor speculative, but actual imminent. Well, we've seen people who have short positions on MMTLP still have their short positions on MMTLP, thus short positions on NextBridge. So, if short positions still exist, then we have been harmed. Because you can't have a short position on a private company. Why? A, there are no shares you can borrow. You cannot borrow these private shares. 2, you cannot locate these private shares and sell naked because there is no market for these shares. Therefore, you cannot have private shares on, short shares on a private company. Harm just all over the place right now. So it's not speculative. It's well-reasoned. And since in that month span since you guys fucked up, it's been proven true. Okay, plaintiff has failed to allege any facts to establish the irreparable harm is actual or imminent. It is actual and is ongoing. Plaintiff has failed to meet her burden of establishing irreparable harm. 4, any purported injury would not be remedied by injunctive relief. So they're saying that if we actually allowed 2 more days of trading, it would not solve your problems, is what they're saying right here. Plaintiff's failure to allege any actual or imminent harm weighs in favor of denying plaintiff's motion because the court cannot determine whether any purported injury would outweigh the harm inflicted by the request for relief. Basically saying, if you make us do this, it might hurt us. It might hurt us more than it helps them. So we shouldn't be required to do this. That's basically what they're saying. But what they've not established here in this argument is how it would hurt them. In order to say like, hey, Your Honor, we can't follow through with this because the damage it would cause us is far greater than the good it would do them. So this argument is already falling apart. To issue an order requiring Finra to provide an accounting of all MMTLP shares does not preserve the status quo between plaintiff and Finra. Instead, such an order will provide plaintiff a remedy she is seeking in this case. Duh. So if your argument, Finra, is that we wouldn't be able to clear all of these transactions in time for them to get their NextBridge shares, but if they ask us to provide how many shares are in all these brokerage accounts, that would be wrong, Your Honor. So if you're saying that what you did was allowed that 1-to-1 to happen, right, as you claim, then why can't you provide the accounting that would show that 1-for-1 happened? Right? That's kind of... they're just pulling this out of their ass right now. Okay. Further, to extend the plaintiff seeking to enjoin any replacement, removal, deletion, or otherwise unilateral disposal of MMTLP shares, Finra cannot provide such relief, and events that occurred prior to the filing of plaintiff's motion prevent the request for relief. Specifically, Finra did not issue MMTLP shares. She's not asking you to issue MMTLP shares. And Finra is not party to the transaction outlined in the NextBridge prospectus. That's true. They were not party to this at all, right? What they did was they halted the ability of that prospectus of working because they halted the trading. Indeed, after Finra announced Meta Company's related action on Finra's daily list publication, Finra had no role in distributing NextBridge shares. We're not asking you to have a role in distributing those shares, right? This is not what she's asking about. She's asking about 2 more days of trading, ding dong. She's not asking about you and your supposed role in issuing the shares. She wants 2 days of trading. You're ignoring that. Plaintiff cannot establish that Finra had any further role in transaction or that Finra could modify or prevent the spinoff. That is not what she's asking. Further, is Finra's understanding that at the time plaintiff's motion was filed December 16th, 2022, the spinoff transaction was complete. They spun it off, but it's not complete. All right. Meta had already canceled MMTLP shares. Deleted, not canceled. See NextBridge press release. Blah. The events that occurred before plaintiff filed plaintiff's motion under the relief that she seeks in the motion moot. Finally, Finra is unable to reinstate the MMTLP symbol, which Finra deleted, again, saying deleted, not canceled, on December 13th, 2022, because MMTLP shares no longer exist, and the mere existence of MMTLP symbol would not result in reissuance of MMTLP shares by Meta. Okay. I've received 3 different QSIPs so far in the last month. 3 of them. If you want to make this thing tradable again for 2 more days, you go tippity tap on your keyboard, and 30 seconds later, ta-da! You have a QSIP for these things, and they can trade for 2 more days. Also, no one from NextBridge is saying, you can't trade this for 2 more days. They're not. They want these shorts closed as much as anybody. So, Finra, claiming that they don't have the power to make this thing magically appear again, is a bunch of bullshit, because every brokerage has made these things magically appear again and again and again and again. Also, this stock was never supposed to trade in the first place, and Finra allowed it to trade. So it allowed the short positions to get even larger than they were. So Finra fucked up. If they could make a stock trade that wasn't supposed to trade, why can't they make a stock trade that was supposed to trade? Okay. For those reasons, plaintiff cannot meet the burden of establishing that any purported injury will be remedied by request for relief. She wants 2 more days of trading, ding dong. That would fix it. Issuance of a TRO would not serve the public interest. Well, that's bullshit. Plaintiff has not demonstrated how the issuance of preliminary injunctive relief would serve the public interest. As discussed above, the transaction resulting in Meta's cancellation of the MMTLP shares has been finalized. Deletion, not cancellation. And the issuance of any injunctive relief would not change the outcome. There are still a whole bunch of fake shares. How are you going to get rid of them? Explain to me, Mr. Finra lawyer, how you're going to get rid of those counterfeit shares that exist. So far, we are 20 pages into this thing, and you have not addressed the number one thing in her complaint, which is short shares. This is a private company, and you allowed those short shares to continue to exist on this private company without forcing the closing of positions as required by law. So, if your trading halt, which is specific to a stock that's supposed to have an open-ended trading period, right? 6440 applies to a stock that's meant to be traded forever, not to a stock that has an end date. All right? If you're going to cite this rule that applies to a stock that this is not part of, and you're saying that her restraining order, forcing you essentially to issue 2 more days of trading, would not serve the public interest, then why aren't you addressing the short shares that this is all about? Okay. Further, plaintiff's assertion that she and other retail investors have millions of MTLP shares with the intention to trade and transfer brokerages until the notice date of deletion. That's true. I was one of those people. There's video recordings of me saying that exact thing. And there's lots of you in those chats saying that exact same thing and asking for those questions. Right? Belies the fact the plaintiff's complaint was not filed on behalf of other retail investors. MMTLP shares no longer exist. MMTLP symbol was deleted. Again, they're saying deleted, not canceled. They're just throwing these words back and forth. December 13th, 2022. Thus, plaintiff has failed to meet her burden of establishing a temporary restraining order would serve public interest. Okay. She said, she and other retail investors have millions of MMTLP shares. So she's established as a public interest there. She filed as herself and not as a class action because she wants an emergency injunctive relief, not a class action lawsuit seeking monetary damages. So either she filed what she needed, or you want her to file a class action suit to which you can say, we've got immunity, right? Okay. Conclusion, for the reasons stated herein, plaintiff's motion for temporary restraining order should be denied. All right. We went through that whole thing. And again, you'll see that in here, not once did that lawyer even acknowledge short shares acknowledged synthetics, acknowledged counterfeits, acknowledged the fact that all those short positions had to be closed in those 2 days. And what's really funny, so the lawyer wasn't registered with, wasn't admitted to the federal courts, so they had to get him admitted, and he filed all the documents a day late, and he's asking for an extra day, which is kind of ironic considering that's all we're asking for. for all that to be filed. It's funny. Okay. Okay, so I blibbity blabbed for the last hour going through those 20 pages, and Monkey Butt has not stopped staring at me the entire time. She is just laser beams on me. What say you? I say it's kind of a crappy, Hail Mary at this point. They're saying she didn't establish injury, but the basis for her injury is that all these fake shares exist, and she cannot get her 1-for-1, and neither can any other investor, because they stopped trading. They didn't close these positions. That's it. Her argument's pretty simple. Their argument is really convoluted, and basically is like ignoring the short shares over here. Don't pay attention to the short shares. We're not talking about those at all. We're talking about we did the right thing, even though there's massive problems being caused by us doing the right thing that are greater than any of the problems that would happen if we just let the trading continue. Monkey, what is it? Why are you staring at me so much? Okay, let's go to Big Houston. I did see there was a super chat somewhere back here. I will scroll and find it. And Joe Bob, you and Boss Bunce differ about new AMC BS thoughts. Also, I'd love it if you guys chat again. Cheers, Home Dog Millionaire. I haven't seen what Boss Bunce has thought about the new things. Here's the thing about AMC, is that every single time shares are sold, Adam Aron does not sell them at the market. He just dumps them via dark pools to a short hedge fund for below market prices. And that does not scream, I care about retail investors. That screams, I care about short sellers. And he's released over 300 million ape shares to these short hedge funds. And these short hedge funds have immediately used them as locates to continue shorting the stock. And they're now all available for shorting, for borrowing. So that doesn't help anybody. And if we do the math, right now they control like 25% of the float, those short hedge funds. And if we combine all the shares and we do the reverse 10-for-1, they'll have 30, 40 million of the 150 million shares, which is about a quarter, right? And then, in order to raise another $5 billion, Adam Aron's got to sell 150 million or more new shares of AMC to be able to pay off all that debt. And so far, every single time he's had the opportunity to dilute the float, he has not sold to market, he sold it to hedge funds. So if he sells these 150 million shares to hedge funds, then all of a sudden, he will double the float, so it'll be 300 million shares, 75% of which will be owned by hedge funds. So a company that was 80% controlled by retail investors in one action will be 75% controlled by hedge funds. What are those hedge funds going to do? Well, they're going to get whatever board they want because they have all the votes. So they can put whoever they want in that board. Then they're going to lend out all their shares to each other and short like crazy. And those who naked short will be like, I know where Thumb are located. And they're going to identify those as potentially available shares. And they're going to naked short. And then they're going to dump the shares that they have. And they're going to crash everything. And they're going to short it down from 40, 50 bucks all the way back down as far as they can go. And they're going to have all their little board members in their executive VP positions filled with hedge fund cronies whose entire job it is to destroy the company. Okay. If you are a movie theater chain with billions in debt, right? and you have no actual collateral assets, meaning you don't own the movie theaters that you operate. You lease them. You lease them from a landowner. That landowner has equity. You do not. You have a contract that you owe money on, and you don't own anything. Now, if you had happened to take $5 billion in debt to buy land and property and theaters, and you could own those theaters, then you'd have collateral against all of this, and you'd have a tangible asset. So if they did short everything to shit, at least your shareholders would get something in the end. But if they short it to shit, the company goes bankrupt, there are no tangible assets that can be divvied out amongst the shareholders like there is with Sears. Sears owned land. Sears owned stores. Sears owned shopping malls. Sears owned office buildings. Sears owned warehouses and distribution networks and all that stuff. AMC doesn't have that. So these guys are definitely going to screw us over. If they give the short 75% ownership in this company, they might temporarily pay off debt. Oh, pay off the debt. All done. What are those short hedge funds going to do the minute they're back in power again? They're going to rack up debt. They're going to pay themselves huge bonuses, just like every vulture capital company in the entire world. And then they're going to destroy the company and walk away. That's it. That's what they do. I do not trust at all what Adam Aron's trying to do in this. He is either so dumb that he's allowing it to happen, or he knows exactly what they're up to. He's giving them a second chance to short the hell out of the company. And they're going to do it all over again. You can make an infinite number of shares and short it down for $50 and just make so many billions of dollars off of it. And that's what they're going to do. And I've been doing that a lot. That's what I had to say. Okay. And the fact there's 58 million shares now available for borrowing proves my point. Okay, it is late. There are so many chats in here. Holy smokes. Where to start? Okay. Let's see if there's any legal mumbo jumbo questions you guys have. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm going through this thing. I'm just pointing out super flaws that I see in there. As to what arguments can be made. And the fact that they didn't touch at all on these short shares is a giant, I think she doth protest too much type situation. Joe Bob, also with MMTL PBS, how do we keep our head up and not just toss our hands up and give up forever? What we have is the law is on our side. That's what we have on our side, is that the law said, and the corporate action said, and the S1 said, and all the other filings said, hey, you're going to have to close these short positions. The brokers even said it. Yep, we're going to start forced closing positions starting on the 8th. And they all said it. We have screenshots. We've got recorded conversations. We have all that stuff showing us what they said. So we have to be able to make, or Roza has to be able to make, because she's the lawyer, she's the one who's going to court. She has to be able to make that argument that the law was not followed, and Finra has manipulated the law to cause a bigger problem than the problem that they were afraid of. They weren't afraid of the forced closing of these positions to drain trillions of dollars from the market, which would have been a massive calamitous event that they could have cited, but they didn't. They cited that they were scared they wouldn't be able to settle. That's why there was 2 days between the end of trading and the issuance of shares, because T+2. That's why. That's why in the corporate action that your own regulatory agency filed said they're going to have to close positions on those last 2 days, and any shares that were traded were going to have to be settled by the seller. Done. Right? Done. Not a problem. That's it. So why are you complaining so much?